Live from the campus of Westfield State University, this is 89.5 FM, WSKB, Westfield.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Dunkin' Donut Shops of Westfield and the Sardinia family. It's nice to know that even as the world changes, Dunkin' Coffee remains the same at 7 convenient locations throughout Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
How are we doing over there?
I have a slice of humble pie to eat later on today, but, that's okay.
Okay. Do you care to tell?
Yes,
What's going on?
I'll tell the story. I ran into some confusion with the musicians of the Irish Cultural Center.
Oh, dear. Okay.
Apparently, they didn't realize I was coming, they knew WGBY was coming, and they thought I was doing stuff for GBY. So we never talked.
Oh, okay.
And so I had permission from the venue to come over.
Yep.
I didn't realize I needed to talk to them as well. There was some confusion for a while. I got a nice letter from Ellen Redmond, who runs it over there, and I'm going to go over and apologize to her in person today and eat a slice of humble pie.
Okay.
And give her a copy of all the video.
There you go.
Because
okay.
I think it came out very, very good.
It's amazing. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. In fact, I was talking to I saw our good friend Patrick Berry. We got together over the weekend and just chatted because we haven't done that in a few months. And I was telling him it was funny because he said, you and Gary and Mimi and I ought to go out sometime. And I said, sure. We've kind of talked about it. We said, after the holidays, and then he said, I said, yeah, do you have any special place in mind? And he goes, they do this thing at the Irish Cultural Center on Wednesday nights. And I said, I know, because Pete went and taped it. So, yeah.
Yeah, so there was some confusion.
Yeah.
And,
okay.
But we worked it out.
Okay.
I got a weird call from Bo. Hey, Bo texted me on Sunday. He goes, they know I know you. Can you pull it down for a couple days until you guys can sort this
Okay.
out?
All right. Fair enough.
I'm like, yep, no problem.
Yep, fair enough.
So I'm going to go over there and apologize. I was going to go talk to her anyways because I hadn't heard from her, but I heard from her yesterday and all is good.
Okay.
So, but she's like, I think it was kind of like a surprise and then cooler heads prevailed in the end. So.
Yeah, because, hey, what the
and
heck?
It came out really good.
Yeah, it came out great.
It came out really good.
Okay, so we'll play that, hopefully
I was
Saturday.
dreading. Oh, well, we played it this week.
Oh, okay.
No, I was still going to play it on Channel 15. It was the YouTube part of it, I think, was the bigger part of it.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Because of the wide distribution of it.
Yes.
So we worked out. She said I could put it back up, but I'm going to wait till tonight till I talk to her in person.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm also there's a couple things I'm going to do that I was planning on doing anyways. Was on the community bulletin board. I was going to put up a slide for the traditional music session.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just leave it up.
All good for them.
And then put the description from the website in the description on the video, so they kind of people have a context for it.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell her to please put an email address on the ICC webpage.
Yeah.
So people can contact you if they want to.
That'd be helpful
in the future.
Yep.
So so there was I was dreading. I was dreading having to go over there and talk to her.
Oh.
And like I said, everybody was talking and it all got sorted out. So I'm happy about that.
Good.
Because it came out really good.
I know. And for those who don't know what the heck Pete and I are talking about, so we wanted to, we do this monthly entertainment mostly for our seniors, but really for anyone.
Yep.
And we wanted to do something Irish for the month of March. And we generally play it on Channel 15 on Wednesday afternoons and Saturday evenings, and then whenever Pete wants to sneak it in. And so we wanted to do something Irish, and Pete found out about this.
I've been to it numerous times.
Oh, okay. So you knew
Oh,
about
God,
that.
yeah. I've been to it 3 or 4 times.
So it's a weekly, it's every Wednesday evening. What is it, 6 to 8, Pete?
6:30 to 9.
Okay.
It's a 2.5 hour.
And it's a
play.
traditional Irish, it's like an Irish jam session is what
It's
it is,
what it-
right?
exactly
it's local
what it is.
musicians. It's not like a concert or a performance. They sit around a table with their chairs and
Anybody can show up when they want to. And on this night where it was snowing, there was probably as many musicians as there were people in the bar.
Well, and I was telling Patrick, if you watch as the video progresses, there are like more musicians that show up and just add in and, then start playing, and they do some singing, and it's, it's all Irish music, and it's really great. So Pete went a couple of weeks ago and taped and put it all together and edited it, and, has, graphics.
The sound came out really good.
The sound came out great. He sent me the link so I could preview it. And it was great. And so that is what we're talking about. So apparently they didn't realize who Pete was taping
Channel
for?
57 was shooting at the same time.
Oh, okay.
They were doing a story. And then they saw me. I know Dave Frazier. I've known Dave for 20 plus years.
Okay.
So he came down and sat and had dinner with me after he finished shooting his stuff.
Okay.
So they thought it was all Channel 57. And then when this video popped up on Westfield Community Programming, they were like, whoa, stop, hold on.
Who are you and what are you doing here?
Right.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
There are a lot of confusion, and that's fine.
Yeah.
And so, but I'm glad it's all sorted out because I didn't want to have that.
Right.
I didn't want to have that conversation going, listen, I was only here for 2 reasons. One, is for the seniors of Westfield who can't get out to events like this, and 2, to promote your event.
Right.
Because I think it's worthwhile.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or even beyond that, to at least have one good documented copy of it.
Yes.
That the Irish Cultural Center can have.
Yeah, that you have for your archives.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah.
Good.
So I'm glad it all worked out, and now I can just have the apology session.
Yeah.
And a beer.
Yeah, and a beer. Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is not a bad thing.
No, not at all. So, good. Yeah.
I'm glad that all
good.
worked out. Yeah.
Yeah, I am too. All right. So now we got.
Because we do so much with the arts around here.
Yes. Yeah.
What I didn't realize was Ellen Redmond, who runs it, is a member of the Springfield Symphony Orchestra and MOSO. And if I had known that, I would have asked Mark and said, "Hey, Mark, do you have Ellen's email?" I would have reached out to her in advance.
Yep.
I didn't put 2 and 2 together.
Well,
so.
now, but now we know. You know,
Right.
I mean, you don't know what you don't know. I mean,
Right.
So.
And now we have more connections, and it'll just for the future. I want to ask her in the spring, do they go outside on the patio and play?
Yeah.
Because I'd like to go back and shoot it on the patio.
Which my guess is, I'm going to say probably yes would be my guess. I don't know why
either they
wouldn't,
open the
because,
doors
right,
and you can
right,
hear
right.
it,
Yep.
or they actually go out on the patio.
Yeah.
So
Should be fun.
if they go out on the patio, I want to reshoot it out in the patio and let
Yep.
them know and whatever.
Yep.
And maybe put up more cameras and do a
Yeah.
really cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
If I put up 4 cameras, that would be really cool. Or do a remote and bring the remote cameras over there and have an actual show.
Well, it was hysterical because Gary was watching it with me. I had watched it.
You guys have never been?
No.
You guys have never been over there for that, right?
We've never been over there for that. We've been over to
For dinner,
We live like 5 minutes from there. So
Right, I know.
Gary said we could walk, but no, we have not been over there for that. But Gary was funny because we were watching it. I guess it was over the weekend, and Gary goes, "Oh, the musicians are moving around." I'm like, "No, they're not." I said, "Pete's there with." I said, "Pete's there with the camera. He's changing the angle of the camera." Because Gary goes, "Oh, do they get up and move?" And I said, "No, it's not like musical chairs, you know."
No, and it was interesting. It's the first time I've edited like that, where the program put the audio tracks together,
Okay.
and because they were 20 feet apart, you got a natural delay. So
Okay.
it sounded like I added a spatial sound to it when it was just natural
Okay.
putting the tracks together, syncing them up,
Yeah.
which came out really cool.
It did.
And then it took forever to switch back and forth because that machine I was editing on doesn't have a graphics card, which it was all kind of, it was a lot to edit.
Yeah.
A lot to edit that.
I get it. And it was long too. Like Gary goes, "Oh my gosh, it's an
almost
hour
2
and 40
hours, yeah.
minutes." Yeah.
Yep, I cut out all the talking parts in between. I just wanted the music.
Yeah, because it was funny because I kept stopping and I was like, okay, because I kind of fast forwarded and then I'd listen to another set and then I'd listen to I was glad that they did
music.
I'm glad that they did some singing as well.
Yep.
That was kind of fun because I wasn't sure if it would be all instrumental, but it is not. There's some singing in there as well. So
Yep.
yeah,
Yep, it
so
came
all
out really well.
good. For this month of March, we have all kinds of St. Patrick's Day festivities going on and Colleen people floating around and
Yeah,
oh my
there's
goodness,
all that too, yeah.
there was all of that. So on a completely different note, well, not exactly different because it's also talking about restaurants, but I saw this article in the Reminder last week, Pete. Upscale restaurant to open this year in Lamson storefront. Have you heard about this?
Yeah, I did see that.
Yeah,
They're finally
I did
getting
too.
some tenants in there, which is
Yeah,
great.
I know because
They've been
it's
working on that building for a while.
forever.
Yeah, they put a lot of work in there. They needed a lot
They
of
needed
work.
a lot of work. I think it was.
I don't even think there was plumbing in that building at one
Yeah,
point.
I can remember when we were at the old senior center, and and of course I was really focused in on buildings around the city, and they said that one was just, and I think because of I'm sure they had all kinds of lead and asbestos and every other darn thing in there, that they had to clean up, and that's not inexpensive to do. I think that was part of the issue. Like people were saying, it's a beautiful building, but it's going to be really expensive to bring it up to code and sprinklers.
Correct.
And all
Yes.
that other
And
stuff.
the elevator.
Yes.
There was
and
an
the
original
elevator.
There was an original. The elevator was historic or
Oh
something.
my goodness! Wow.
It dated back to the 1800s or something. I
Wow,
think.
must have been so cool.
I remember hearing that. I think it was in a planning board meeting during the Zoom era.
Yeah, I believe it because they did say something about in here about about the elevator and what they had to do, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, with most of the funds being put towards the installation of an elevator to serve the upper floors.
Yep.
Oh, so there are apartments up there. The apartments on those levels are nearing completion.
Yep. You want to make it a multi-use.
That would be kind of cool to have an apartment right there. I think that would be really neat.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, upscale restaurant.
And the multi-use thing is we really do need that downtown.
Yes, I totally agree with you, Pete. Yeah.
Because
I totally agree with you.
people lived at, well, we need, first of all, this city needs a rental space.
Yes.
Desperately.
Yes. That
And
we know.
mixing commercial with rental space is better for the owners of the building, because sometimes people are having problems and sometimes businesses are having problems,
Right.
but not always at the same time.
Right. And it also just means that there's always somebody around. If I owned a business, I would kind of want somebody kind of keeping eyes out. I mean, there's activity there.
If people know there's a presence in the
Right.
building, they're less likely to break into it.
in. That's exactly it. Yep, that's exactly it. So this is going to be the Lamson Square building in Westfield is hoping to have its first tenant later this year in the form of Tribeca Gastro Bar and Grill.
Yep.
That'll be the name of it. Tony Long of the newly formed Connecticut Valley Restaurant Group said he hopes to have his restaurant's grand opening in the historic Lamson building as soon as this September, though he said that is on the earlier end of the possible range. So, but he described it as gourmet comfort food and casual fine dining. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds like something we can,
And then
try out.
I had a weird run-in on Wednesday last week.
What's that?
Of last week. My girlfriend said, "Hey, Whiskey Traveler's playing down at what's it, Connecticut Valley Brewing down right north of the airport."
Okay.
Anyways, I walk into the restaurant, wait to get seated, and this bald-headed guy walks up to me and goes, "Hi, P. Coles." What?
And you said, hello. Who
What?
are you?
I was like, he's like, "Do you remember me?" I'm like, "Nope."
Oh, I hate when
He
people
goes-
do that. Do you remember me? And you're going, oh, well, obviously I should, but
Right. He goes, "We went to high school together."
oh my God.
And I'm like, he gave his name, and I was like, "No, wait a minute, you had hair." And he goes, "Yes, back then I did have hair."
I love
I
it.
said, "That's why I don't recognize you." So we started talking, and then I found I had scanned all of our high school yearbook photos for the 30th reunion. So in my Google Photos, it was still there.
Okay.
So I went and searched it. He goes, "Pete," he goes, "I got to show I think one of his daughters is one of the waitresses."
Okay.
And he's like, "I got to show her. So he showed her. She goes, "Oh my God, you did have good hair."
Look at
Because
that,
I don't think
Dad.
he had his yearbook.
Yeah.
I don't think he had his yearbook. So so he thought that was hilarious.
Gotta have your yearbook. Come on.
And so I ran into an old high school going to
That's-
see Whiskey Traveler
really
down in
neat.
Connecticut.
Oh my gosh. How was the food and how was the music? Whiskey Travelers is
They're
great.
great,
They're
yeah.
great.
Yep. Oh,
Oh,
no,
my
it's
goodness.
Broadbrook Brewing. That's it. Broadbrook.
Broadbrook Brewing.
They're
Okay.
just north of the main runway at Bradley on Route 75. They have this huge barn-looking place,
Really?
and they have a nice little tap room in there. The food was really good, and we had a great time.
Good. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh. Well, you
But
guys
that's-
get out and about. That's good.
Well, my girlfriend was coming home from Yukon, so she goes by the airport anyways, and one of her friends met us there, so it was kind of like in between
Nice.
for all of us.
Yeah. There you go. New meeting space.
Right.
Okay. All right. So it is Retire the Fire Week. So we're going to be talking about Retire the Fire on the show. This is our annual fire prevention and safety program for the city's older adults. But as Harry Rock has pointed out a number of times, most of what we talk about that's good for the city's older adults is good for all of the city's
Yes.
residents, including children. And of course, fire prevention and safety is important for all of us. So we're going to be talking about that throughout the program this morning. And so to start us off, it is 6:15 and you're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. So to get us kick-started on our Retire the Fire Week, we're going to listen to Pitbull singing Fireball.
Mr. Worldwide to infinity, you know the roof on fire. We gon' boogie, oogie, oogie, jiggle, wiggle, and dance like the roof on fire. We go drink drinks and take shots until we fall out like the roof on fire. Now, baby, get my booty naked, take off all your clothes and light the roof on fire. Tell 'em, baby, 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 I'm on fire. I tell her, baby, 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 I'm a fireball. conquered, or should I say I saw, I conquered, I came. This little chico on fire, he ain't no lie. Well, y'all slipping, he's running the game. Now Big Bang Boogie get that kitty little noogie in a nice little shave. I gave Susie a little pat up on the booty and she turned around and said, walk this way.
I was born in a plane. Mama said that every word was on my name. I'm the best you've ever had. If you think I'm burning out, I never am. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Fireball.
Sticks and stones may break my bones, but I don't care what y'all say. Cause as the world turns, y'all boys gon' learn that the Chico right here don't play. That boy's from the bottom of the map, MIA, USA. I gave Susie a little pat up on the booty and she turned around and said, walk this way.
I was born in a plane. Mama said that every word was on my name. I'm the best you've ever had. If you think I'm burning out, I never am. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. I'm on fire. Fireball.
I'm a fireball.
Support for community radio on WSKB is provided by Betts Plumbing and Heating Supply Company, an independent, family-owned wholesaler serving Westfield for over 50 years, specializing in plumbing, heating, and industrial piping supplies. On the web at bettsplumbing.com or at 14 Coleman Avenue in Westfield.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for Arts Beat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:20. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So let's do a couple of famous birthdays because we got a lot of ground to cover today. So it was funny because Gary said to me last night, "So who's on your show tomorrow?" I said, "No one. I'm doing it solo." I said, "It's Retire the Fire Week. We're going to talk all about fire prevention and fire safety." And Gary said to me, "Wow, 2 hours, that's a long time." I said, "Yeah, come on. It's Pete and me. We could do this with our eyes closed." And just so that people know, one of the reasons that I'm doing this solo this morning is because the Westfield Fire Department has been very gracious in giving me their time and their expertise. And Fire Prevention Officer Ben Warren was actually interviewed by Harry Rock for our Westfield Council on Aging Presents series. So he just did that a few weeks ago, and I just really felt like he's slammed right now. He's really up to his neck, and although I think he would have wanted to come on the show and do this with me this morning, he's pretty busy, and they're a little the chief is out of town, so I think they're a little short-handed there. And you know, we've done this before, and actually we have a couple of new programs that we're going to talk about today, but I would encourage people to tune in to this month's Westfield Council on Aging Presents. Pete airs that on Tuesday and Thursday in the afternoon at 2:45 on Channel 15.
And it's always available on the YouTube
and
site.
It's always up on YouTube as well. And again, Ben Warren, who and Ben has been the fire prevention officer in Westfield now for several years. For a while, we had Chief Egloff was when I first started this program.
Correct. Yep, when I was working in,
like 10 years ago. Yep. And then, Seth Ellis was for a while. Eric Bishop was. So we've gone through several different. And I remember when Ben became fire prevention officer, Chief Egloff said to me, he wasn't chief at the time, but he had said to me, he said, I think Ben's going to be in this position for a little while. Because I said, hey, we get him trained and we take it on the road and we're, getting all this great information out to the community, and then you switch office, prevention officers.
I think it suits you. It just takes a special kind of person to be in that role long term, and that suits Ben really well.
It does.
It suits his personality really well.
Yeah, he's really, really good at it. So, so please do tune into that, and you'll see the person in the uniform who looks very official talking about all the fire safety stuff. So, but again, we're going to talk about that, and I also want to because I don't want to forget to do this. I want to thank Michael Ballway, who is the managing editor at the Westfield News. He has been publishing a series of articles that I wrote. And I have been doing that annually. And it started with Patrick Berry, my good friend Patrick. We were talking about him earlier when he owned the Westfield News. And Patrick and at the time, Chief Regan, Mary Regan was chief. And we really started the Retire the Fire program together, but it was really Patrick and me back in the day at the press room. Remember that?
Mark laments about it all the time.
Yep, exactly. The bagel place when Patrick owned that and opened up sort of the bagel shop within the newspaper, which was really kind of fun.
It was.
It was really fun. But anyway, it was when Patrick was there, and I said to him, we had just had a rash of 4 fire fatalities within about less than an 18-month period. It was just less than a year and a half, and they were all older adults. And I said to Patrick, we need to do something, and I don't know what we're going to do, but I think I'm going to need your help. And so we kind of together put our heads together and came up with starting what I dubbed the Retire the Fire program. I know somebody who's busy, who works in patents, and he said, you should patent that name, which I probably should. But anyway,
yes.
it is a fire prevention and safety program for older adults. And one of the ways that Patrick helped me start that program was by allowing me to publish a series of articles. So during Retire the Fire Week, and Retire the Fire Week is always the week that we push our clocks ahead with daylight savings time, because if you do still have smoke detectors that are using batteries, that's a good reminder to change your batteries. So that's kind of how the timing works. And also, we usually they do the school safety fire safety program in October. So we wanted to do ours in the spring. They do theirs in the fall, so that way the fire department didn't have to focus on 2 things at the same time, because it does take some manpower for all of this. So anyway,
Sure.
Thank you to Michael Ballway, who has continued, and Hope Tremblay, when she was editor, continued to allow me to write the articles and get those published. And, we moved, I think the first year, we moved from like the 2nd or 3rd page. Now we're on the front page. So it's great. And the article today is on falls prevention, which we're going to spend a lot of time talking about second hour. The Department of Fire Services, which is the state level fire department, or managing department, did a big program a few years ago on falls prevention among seniors, and that has really been a focus of theirs. So I wanted to focus on that a little bit this year as well, along with all of the other things that we normally talk about with Retire the Fire. So stay tuned, because we're going to be talking about that throughout the program. I want to start now with just doing a few famous birthdays so that you know why the music was chosen, because of course we do have a lot of fire songs. We even have a fall song, so we've got all kinds of stuff going on this morning. Today it is March 8th, and it is the birthday of musician, actor, producer, businessman Mickey Dolenz. He was born on this date in 1945 in Los Angeles, California, and he's 78 years old today. Born George Michael Dolenz Jr., Mickey Dolenz was the drummer and one of the two primary vocalists for the pop rock band The Monkees from 1966 to 1970, and then multiple Monkees reunions that ran through 2021. He also co-starred in the television series The Monkees, which ran from 1966 to 1968. And what surprised me about those years is that I was in grade school and I was all about The Monkees. But it seemed to me that I would have guessed it ran at least 5 years, but it only ran a couple of years.
Yeah.
It's just that we were, my friends and I, we were teeny boppers and glued to the TV. Mickey Dolenz suffered from Perthes disease, which I never heard of as a child, affecting his hip joint and his right leg, leaving that leg weaker and shorter than the other. And so that resulted in Dolenz adapting an unorthodox drum setup, right-handed and left-footed, in his musical career. He provided the lead vocals for such hits as Last Train to Clarksville, Pleasant Valley Sunday, and I'm a Believer. He also directed and co-wrote the show's final episode. After Davy Jones' sudden death in February of 2012, Mickey Dolenz and Peter Tork reunited with Michael Nesmith, so those were the original four, for a 12-concert tour of the United States as a tribute. The three remaining Monkees toured again in 2013 and 2014, and Dolenz toured as a duo with Peter Tork in 2015 and 16. Following Peter Tork's death in 2019, Mickey Dolenz toured with Mike Nesmith as The Mike and Mickey Show in 2018 and 2019. So they were still singing just a few years ago. In May of 2021, Dolenz and Nesmith announced the Monkees' farewell tour, which was the last for the group. The tour consisted of 40 dates from September to November. That is a lot of singing.
Yeah.
The final show was held on November 14th, 2021 at the Greek Theater in Los Angeles, California. Mickey Dolenz is the only member of the Monkees who was part of every lineup from the band's inception, and the only member with contemporary recordings of his vocals on all studio albums. Dolenz has continued performing, providing voiceovers for a number of Saturday morning cartoon series, television guest appearances, and he also did some live theater. So happy 78th birthday to Mickey Dolenz. And he still looks pretty good for 78.
That's cool.
Yeah. It is also the birthday of little Peggy March. Peggy March was a singer born on this date in 1948 in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. She is 75 years old today. Peggy March is an American pop singer. In the United States, she is primarily known for her 1963 million-selling song, I Will Follow Him. Although she is sometimes remembered as a one-hit wonder, Peggy March continued to have success in Europe well into the 1970s. Born Margaret Anne-Marie Battavio to an Italian-American family, March was discovered at age 13 singing at her cousin's wedding. She was introduced to record producers Hugo and Luigi. They gave her the nickname Little Peggy March because she was 4 foot 10 inches tall. She was only 13 years old. The record she did with them was called Little Me, and her birthday was in March. On April 24th, 1963, her single I Will Follow Him soared to #1 on the United States charts. She recorded the song in early January 1963, and it was released on January 22nd when she was only 14 years old. Peggy March became the youngest female artist with a #1 hit at 15 in late April 1963, a record that still stands for the Billboard Hot 100. The recording also reached number 1 in Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, Japan, and Scandinavia. Peggy March also became the first white female solo artist to hit number 1 on the Billboard R&B chart. Her success also came with financial trouble. She was a minor, and the Coogan law prevented her parents from managing her money. The responsibility was placed on her manager, Russell Smith. It was discovered in 1966 that he had squandered the fortune, leaving her with $500. That's it. March graduated from Lansdale Catholic High School in 1966. Yeah. And, that happened a lot to the television stars, too. The kids who were stars, they got, they did not necessarily fare well, financially, unfortunately. All right. It is 6:31. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. And in honor of the birthday of Mickey Dolenz of the Monkees, we got to listen to a Monkee song. So we're going to listen to I'm a Believer. We'll be back.
I thought love was only true in fairy tales and for someone else, but not for me. Our love was out to get me. That's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. I thought love was more or less a given thing. Seems the more I gave, the less I got. What's the use in trying? And all you get is pain. When I needed sunshine, I got rain. Oh, then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Love was out to get me. No, that's the way it seemed. Disappointment haunted all my dreams. Oh, then I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. I'm in love. I'm a believer. I couldn't leave her if I tried. Yes, I saw her face. Now I'm a believer. Not a trace of doubt in my mind. Said I'm a believer. Said I'm a believer, yeah.
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise, all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldState.bncollege.com.
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 at 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:35. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning, Pete.
Good morning.
So yesterday on Bob Plass's show, because I listened to Bob's show, Bob, of course, sleeps through my show, but I just want to kind of throw that out there to my good friend Bob. So you know, Pete, because Bob was talking about this, that it is National Procrastination Week.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
And as you said, Bob Plass is like the master procrastinator, right?
He
and by
is.
his own admission, so we're not saying anything just because Bob is asleep and he can't defend himself. No, he kind of talked about that. I almost texted in yesterday because Denny Akins was on the show, and we were talking. Bob was asking, Rick Barry and the others that were there, and Kathy Bradford, what kinds of things do you procrastinate? And so, Denny was saying, well, things that you don't want to do, like cleaning out a closet. And of course, I was all ready to text and say, oh my God, I never procrastinate cleaning out a closet. Like,
yes, but you're a different sort.
I live for cleaning out closets, like the opportunity to sort and organize and downsize and get rid of. How cool
Tina,
is
you're
that?
a different sort.
I know, I'm like a different breed. That's why I didn't, because I thought, I'm sure most of the viewers agree with Denny. Like, yeah, that's something that I would definitely put off until tomorrow. But now here's a bit of a different spin on National Procrastination Week. So, because Bob procrastinated actually researching what the week was all about, but I didn't. So here we go. National Procrastination Week has been observed in the first or second week of March since 2008. In the spirit of procrastination, the date is flexible, and the holiday could be postponed until a later date. National Procrastination Week was born out of the idea that we should have 1 week to enjoy the things that we have put off for a long time. It is a time for loosening up and stress-free exercise. Procrastination is derived from the Latin words pro, meaning forward, and crastinus, meaning tomorrow. Procrastination is the act of putting off a job, mostly something important, until a later time, and it is usually painted negatively. National Procrastination Week, however, is a time to help procrastinators arrange their schedule in such a way that they can enjoy a week to delay those important things they usually have to do. These are then picked up again after the holiday when important work is resumed. So the weeks leading to the holiday are devoted to regular tasks and focus on the most important activities, while the week of the holiday provides an opportunity to relax, ease off, and engage in leisurely pursuits that aren't a necessity. These may include reading, hiking, hanging out with your friends and family. It could be any of the things that are not that serious. It must also, yes, sleep. Yes, exactly. Fun. It must also be noted that this holiday does not support laziness in any way. Rather, it helps to keep procrastinators organized, making them carry out important work now so that they can enjoy their week. So there you go. A little bit of a different spin on Procrastinators Week. Get your work done so that you can have some fun. That's the whole idea behind it.
Want to get away?
Exactly. Yep. Well, Pete, you're going to do that, right? So tell us about the launch in April. What's going on
so
there? Where are you going?
SpaceX has got a whole bunch of stuff on their manifest, but Kenny and I have not seen a Falcon Heavy, which is 3 Falcon 9s basically strapped together in a heavy. It was the most powerful rocket on the Earth until the SLS launched.
Okay.
But it's been in operation for a while, and we've been trying to go see it. And as soon as Starship and Super Heavy get operational, probably by next year, they're going to retire it. So
if you don't go.
Yeah. So we're trying to get down there to see. So they've had this date of April 8th hard on the schedule for a while now, and we think it's going to hold. So.
And where is this one being launched from?
Kennedy Space Center.
Okay, down in Florida.
So, and then even more Providence, I got an email from Amtrak yesterday saying, hey, we got a special on the auto train going south. Pay for your car, regular price, which is $225, and then $29 coach seats. And I went, I called Kenny. I'm like, we need to book this. Like, that's why we're leaving a day earlier than we thought we would.
Great.
So things are falling into line. And you know what I said to Kenny? I said, you know what? even if it doesn't go, I need to say I need some vacation time.
And Florida.
And I need to use
Florida
my
in
vacation time.
April will be great.
Right.
It's a good time of the year to go.
Right. So we're only going for a couple days. I mean,
Yeah.
we're going to go over the weekend. We're coming back on Monday the 10th. So
Okay.
and we'll be back on Tuesday. We're going to drive all the way back because it was $500 to come back. It was $283 to go down.
To go down. Hello.
Well,
Okay. Yeah.
this time of year, all the snowbirds are coming back north.
Yeah. Yep.
That's about the time frame they start coming back north.
Yep.
So
Yep.
that's why they're offering the special south, because not many people are going there with their cars.
Makes sense.
So I'll take advantage of 1,000 less miles of driving.
Yeah.
I'll take advantage of
Yeah,
that.
no, that's awesome. That's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So I was wondering, suddenly what happened?
Yeah,
So,
we've
okay.
been talking about it. I'm
Yeah.
like, let's jump on this now while we have the chance. And if not, we'll just go down and enjoy the
Florida
area.
weather, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, good. All right, sounds good. Okay, so let's do. We got a couple more birthdays. Let's do another birthday. It is the birthday of the late Alan Hale. You might not recognize the name, but you'll recognize
I
the
know who it is.
character. He's an actor born on this date in 1921 in Los Angeles, California. He died on January 2nd, 1990, at the age of 68. Alan Hale was an American actor and restaurateur. He was the son of actor Alan Hale Sr. His television career spanned 4 decades, but he was best known for his secondary lead as Captain Jonas Grumby, better known as the Skipper on the 1960s CBS comedy series Gilligan's Island, of course. In 1964, Hale won the co-starring role as the Skipper on the CBS sitcom Gilligan's Island. The series aired for a total of 98 episodes from 1964 to 1967.
If you listen to Mike Rowe's podcast when he was doing the rest of this, the way I heard it,
Yeah.
you'll find out the story of how Alan Hale got the role of the skipper.
Really?
Yes.
Okay. I love those stories. Those are so interesting about how some of these actors and actresses got the parts.
Yep.
That's cool. His character proved to be the most prominent role of Hale's career as the show continued in reruns. The popularity of the show typecast its actors, which a lot of sometimes television shows do that, making it difficult for them to successfully pursue different roles. Hale did not mind being so closely identified with the Skipper. He often visited children in hospitals dressed as the Skipper. Hale reprised the role of the Skipper in 3 television films. The first one was Rescue from Gilligan's Island in 1978, The Castaways on Gilligan's Island in 1979, and The Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island in 1981.
Oh, Lord.
I know. He also voiced the Skipper in 2 cartoon versions of the series, The New Adventures of Gilligan from 1974 to 1977, and Gilligan's Planet from 1982 to 1983. After the end of Gilligan's Island, Hale continued his career in television. He guest starred in several more series, including The Wild Wild West, Here Come the Brides, Land of the Giants, The Virginian, Here's Lucy, Marcus Welby, MD, The Paul Lynde Show, The Love Boat, and Crazy Like a Fox. So he did a lot of acting afterwards and a lot of guest appearances. So happy birthday to the late Alan Hale.
And if you want to look up the podcast, it's under the way I heard it, and the episode is "Can You Be There by 9?"
Okay. All right.
That's all I'm going to say.
So, okay. And so, Pete, just for those listeners and viewers who aren't familiar with this podcast, can you just
This is
explain
Mike
that?
Rowe. Mike Rowe, the guy that does Dirty Jobs, kind of carried on the tradition of what Paul Harvey did for years and years and years with
Yep.
the rest of the story. He decided he liked that and he wanted to pay homage to Paul Harvey, and he came up with the podcast The Way I Heard It. And now that's kind of developed into a more of an issues type of
Yeah.
like interesting
Podcast,
guests
yep.
and stuff like that. But still love listening to it, and the stories were always great. So, yeah, there was a couple hundred episodes before they switched the format,
I
and I
was
still love them.
I was a huge Paul Harvey fan. I used to
I was
listen
too.
to when Gary was in chiropractic school back in the must have been in, we got married in 81, so that was in the 80s, early 80s. We were living out in Iowa. He was going to school out there, and every Friday, the radio station that I listened to used to
Paul Harvey News and Comment.
Yeah, it was Paul Harvey News, which is like maybe like 3 or 4 minutes. It was it was
15 minutes.
Thing. Oh.
It was 15 or 20 minutes actually.
Oh, okay.
Because they at the 15-minute mark, because I know this, I worked for WHYN.
Okay.
At the 15-minute mark would be the rest of the story.
Well, that's what the radio station that I listened to just played, kind of like the rest of the story segment. But it would be, some interesting story, and I would be driving and just listening and hanging on to every word. And then he'd come out with the punchline, and then of course it was always, and now you know the rest of the story. And I remember too, he always used to start his broadcast with good morning. Well, on this one, because it was on Fridays. Good morning, Americans. It's Fridays. It's
Hello,
Friday.
Americans. This is Paul Harvey. In part brought to you by the First Federal Savings and Loan Association of Lima. Stand by for news.
I love it. He was just great. I loved Paul Harvey. So yeah. So what Pete's referring to is this. Who's the person who did the
Mike Rowe.
Mike Rowe, who kind of did the take on that. And
the funniest thing was that on their 100th anniversary podcast, they did. He and Chuck, his lifelong friend and producer, talked about it, and he says, one day I came into the foundation, they said, Paul Harvey Jr. called and wants you to call him back, and he went,
yeah.
Oh no, it's over.
Dear, yeah.
I'm gonna get sued. So Paul Harvey Jr. He said we had an hour-long talk, and he absolutely loved that I was carrying on his father's legacy, and he said he wrote a check to Microworks.
Wow. Oh, that's a great story.
Yeah.
That's a great story.
He says, I was going, oh crap, I'm going to get sued.
Well, exactly. I would have thought the same thing. It's like, oh man, what are you doing? Copyrights.
Paul Harvey Jr. said he was tickled pink that he was carrying on his father's legacy.
So cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right. Believe it or not, it is 6:47. We need to take a break. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. In honor of the birthday of Little Peggy March, we're going to listen to her sing I Will Follow Him. We'll be back.
I will follow him wherever he may go. There isn't an ocean too deep, a mountain so high it can't keep me away. I must follow him. Ever since he touched my hand, I knew that near him I always must be, and nothing can keep him from me. He is my destiny. I love him, I love him, I love him, and where he goes I'll follow, I'll follow, I'll follow. He'll always be my true love, my true love, my true love, from now until forever, forever, forever. I will follow him, follow him wherever he may go. There isn't an ocean too deep, a mountain so high it can keep me away from my love. I love him, I love him, I love him, and where he goes I'll follow, I'll follow, I'll follow. He'll always be my true love, my true love, my true love, from now until forever, forever, forever. I will follow him wherever he may go. There isn't an ocean too deep, a mountain so high it can't keep me away from my love. And where he goes I'll follow, I'll follow, I'll follow. I know I'll always love him, I love him, I love him, and where he goes I'll follow, I'll follow.
Underwriting for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield, serving the youth of the Whip City and surrounding communities since 1969. For more information on the Great Futures Club for ages 3 to 5, happening weekdays,
and the Club Teen Center for ages 11 and older, weekdays from 6:30 till 8 p.m. Go online at bcgwestfield.org or visit the club at 28 West Silver Street. The Boys and Girls Club of Greater Westfield. Great futures start here.
Join us every Thursday morning
from 6 until at least 7:30.
Check out the Bobby G and Company Show
right here on WSKB 89.5
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 6:50. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, producer Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
So, Pete, March 8th is National Proofreading Day. This is like a holiday that is near and dear to my heart because it drives me crazy when I get things that have not been proofread because sometimes they're really obvious mistakes, typos and things like that.
Sometimes you read things too many times and your brain just substitutes the thing and it looks right.
The right thing, exactly, which is why when I was teaching over at Springfield College, I used to say to my students, just have your roommate, even if they're not reading for content, just because they'll pick up any typos or, misspellings that are pretty glaring. I said, just have somebody look it over for you. It is hard to do. When I submit the newsletter, the monthly newsletter, Jim Corwin and I go through it, and we'll do a draft and, revise, and I'll pick things up, and it's like, all right, you know what? I misspelled that word, or, I left a word out, you find it later. Oops. So the history of National Proofreading Day, it's a holiday that was first created by Judy Beaver in 2011. It was created in remembrance of her mother, Flo, a woman who really loved correcting other people's mistakes. It's why the day falls on March 8th, and that's the day on which Flo was born. Flo sounds like my mom, because my mom was constantly correcting I probably learned more grammar from my mother correcting the 4 children that she had and my dad than I did in school. But anyway, why bother to proofread your writing? Well, I'll tell you why. The first and foremost reason for proofreading your writing is to avoid mistakes that make you look bad. It doesn't matter if you're doing a cover letter for a job interview, writing an email to a friend, or filling out a dating profile online. Mistakes reflect poorly on you and will negatively impact people's opinions of you and your work. Mistakes can have unintended consequences. I put this one in there just for you, Pete. In the real world, mistakes on purchase orders and in advertising can have real consequences. And no one knows this better than NASA. In 1962, they lost contact with Mariner 1 and eventually lost control of it. This resulted in them having to blow it up 293 seconds after launch.
Yep.
What caused them to lose control? Some people believe it was a missing hyphen in the spacecraft's guidance code. Science fiction writer Arthur C. Clarke dubbed this mistake as one of the most expensive hyphens in history. Proofreading helps you think more critically of your own writing. Hunting down and correcting your grammatical mistakes helps make you a better, conscientious writer. It will help you to hone your craft and, in the end, become a better writer. So keep on correcting those mistakes. This holiday is meant as a day to remind writers and ordinary people to take the time to proofread everything they write, so it's a good day to follow that practice. It's also a good day to offer your proofreading skills to a friend or colleague. And it's also a good day to teach children how to proofread their own work, even as they're honing their writing skills. And one way that you can proofread your own work is you can read it not from the beginning to the end. So if you read you can either do a sentence at a time starting with the last sentence so that you're not filling in the words that belong there because
your brain will fill in, will correct a lot of mistakes.
Absolutely will. It'll also correct mistakes that other people do sometimes when you're reading it because you're kind of getting the flow of what the guy's trying to say or what the woman is trying to say.
Yep.
So here is my proofreading story of the week. I haven't responded to this email yet. So I received an email last week from someone who I don't know. I have never met them. She's a woman. She is a professional I'll kind of use that term a little loosely, but she's a professional and she does marketing for an area agency, let's say.
Okay.
Sent me an email because she wanted to she wanted to see if we wanted to collaborate on something. And that wasn't the problem. The problem, and as it turns out, it's not something that I can collaborate on for a number of reasons. But that's beside the point. The point is that she used the expression. It was kind of like, so I was wondering if you guys want to, get together and work on this together. And if I'm reading this, I'm going, you guys? And she used it like 2 or 3 times within the same email. It's like, so if you guys want to get together, or if you guys want to, call us, I'm thinking to myself, oh, thank you. So inappropriate. And I thought to myself, it immediately made me go down to the end of the email and say, what is this woman's position? And she is in marketing. And I thought to myself, okay, my first impression is I wouldn't hire her to do any marketing for me because that was so...
It was very informal.
Very informal, I don't know her. It's one thing if we know each other and, it's more of a homey folksy thing.
Right.
We don't. She's reaching out one professional to another. That just irritates the heck out of me. And so I haven't responded yet because I could be really snarky about it and respond with, well, us, in quotation marks, guys over here, oh my gosh. So please proofread things. And remember, just because you're putting it in an email doesn't mean that it's not formal. And I will say
especially if you're trying to attract a business partner.
Right. Make an impression, work with someone, professionally. If it was, something that was not professional and just kind of, one person to another, do you want to connect on something? Different story, a little more informal. Okay. Yep. This was professional. And she identified herself as, well, I'm this marketing person. I'm working with so-and-so. And I thought to myself, well, okay, let's see, what marketing firm do you work with that I'm absolutely not going to hire? So, those first impressions, and I think that's what this whole proofreading thing is about. I have received cover letters. I have received resumes in my position as director of the senior center, people looking for work. When I start seeing mistakes in a resume, mistakes on a cover letter, you're done before you start. That one's going to the bottom of the pile because my feeling is that if you're not serious enough to proofread a resume or a cover letter, I don't want you working for me. So, word to the wise. All right, let's do one last birthday here before we move on. It is the birthday of the late Oliver Wendell Holmes. He was the 59th United States Supreme Court Justice, born on this day in 1841 in Boston, Massachusetts. He died March 6, 1935, at the age of 93. He was just 2 days shy of his 94th birthday. He died 2 days before his birthday. Oliver Wendell Holmes, a graduate of Harvard Law School, was an American jurist and legal scholar who served as an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court of the United States from 1902 to 1932. So he's a Supreme Court Justice for 30 years. He is one of the most widely cited U.S. Supreme Court justices and most influential American common law judges in history. Holmes retired from the court at the age of 90, an unbeaten record for oldest justice on the Supreme Court. During his tenure on the U.S. Supreme Court, he supported the constitutionality of state economic regulation and came to advocate broad freedom of speech under the First Amendment. He was one of only a handful of justices known as a scholar. The Journal of Legal Studies has identified Holmes as the third most cited American legal scholar of the 20th century. Soon after the death of Associate Justice Horace Gray in July of 1902, President Theodore Roosevelt made known his intention to appoint Holmes as Gray's successor. It was the president's stated desire to fill the vacancy with someone from Massachusetts. The nomination was supported by Senator Henry Cabot Lodge, the junior senator from Massachusetts, but for a variety of reasons, it was opposed by its senior senator, who at that time was George Frisbee Hoar, who was also chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Despite Hoar's opposition, the president moved ahead on the matter. But here's what I love best about this story. On December 2nd, 1902, the president formally submitted the nomination of Holmes and was confirmed by the United States Senate on December 4th. Okay, that's 2 days later. We've already got a Senate confirmation. And Oliver Wendell Holmes was sworn into office on December 8th. So this was less than 1 week from the time the president nominated Oliver Wendell Holmes to be on the Supreme Court until he was sworn in. Less than 1 week. I mean, in this day and age, it takes us weeks and months, years for a nomination. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It's like, okay, president nominated him on the 2nd, Senate confirmed on the 4th, sworn into office on the 8th.
Yeah, but politics was a bit different back
then, too. It was
too.
Very different back then. There it is.
It wasn't the grand show.
Correct. It was just like, okay, we're actually going to get something done, so let's get it done and move on.
Yeah.
All right, it is 7:01. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We will be back, and we're going to talk about Retire the Fire.
Underwriting support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Greater Westfield Chamber of Commerce, the voice of business for the Greater Westfield communities. Informing, educating, advocating, the Chamber provides opportunities for members to make meaningful connections on local, regional, and state levels. For more information on the Chamber's many events, workshops, and programs, as well as the benefits of membership, visit westfieldbiz.org. The Chamber focuses on the most important economy, yours.
Hi, it's Bob Plass, and I have Wow, It's Tuesday, every Tuesday, 6 to 8. Wow, it's Tuesday.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB.
I did it!
Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:04. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
And we are talking this week about Retire the Fire. It is Retire the Fire week at the Senior Center, and actually we kind of take the whole month of March to talk about fire prevention and safety. So I want to start with, there's a lot to cover, of course. This is a broad topic. So we're going to hone in on a couple of different things. The first thing I want to talk about is we created last year a Retire the Fire senior safety checklist. And what I would like to do is go through that checklist. It's just a really good starting point. We have them at the Senior Center, so please feel free. We have an entire table display with all kinds of fire information, brochures, some of what I'm going to cover this morning. So feel free to to stop by and get any and all of it. So let's start with the senior safety checklist. And first and foremost, are there house numbers on the home that are easily visible to first responders in case of an emergency? And are there smaller numbers on the mailbox? This is vitally important because if we say in an emergency, seconds count, and if the first responders can't find you, if they can't get to either a fire or an ambulance emergency because they can't find the house, they are losing precious time. So one of the things that, Massachusetts law, first of all, does require that every house, every apartment, every building in the state must have a number on it. And that number should be 4 inches in height. It should be easily visible. And it should be color contrast to the background. So let's start with, first of all, the number should be 4 inches in height. So and you can get those numbers at Home Depot, Rocky's Ace Hardware Store. You can get numbers that screw into your siding. You can get numbers that stick onto the wood. There are lots of different ways to get those house numbers on there, but you need to do that. That's really important because remember, that when there's an emergency, let's say someone is having a stroke or someone's having a heart attack or someone fell, and you call 911, 911 has to be able to find the house. Now, of course, we're all using GPS these days. Generally, they can find the street. But one of the things that sometimes happens in an emergency is that, especially if it's a fire and they call out multiple units, so they may be calling firefighters from Holyoke or West Springfield or Southwick who aren't necessarily as familiar with the streets and of the city of Westfield. So, I have heard the horror stories from our firefighters saying we couldn't find the house. Especially if it's a medical emergency. Make sure that the house numbers contrast to the background of the house. If you put, when we first bought our home, we actually we didn't put the numbers on the home, but we had silver. They were these beautiful silver numbers, and they were on a gray house. Well, I couldn't find them. Neither. And if I can't find them in the daytime, how the heck are the firefighters going to find them if they have an emergency at night?
Yeah, that's the big thing, and they really should be big and reflective.
Big, reflective, and
I noticed in Agawam there's a handicap client that has them. They bought lit up numbers that are about half a foot tall that light up on the outside of the building.
Oh wow!
Because they're handicapped clients. You see the handicap van in the park in the driveway.
Perfect.
So they really have theirs lit up.
Yep, perfect. So it's very, very important. And the other thing is, I know when Eric Bishop was the fire prevention officer, he actually did a drive-through. He did like a drive-by with, I think it was Channel 22 News who picked up this story when we were doing the Retire the Fire a few years ago, and they actually got into the deputy fire chief's car with Eric, and they went up and down the street looking for house numbers. And Eric was pointing out, for instance, he said, like, that house number is in the wrong spot. It was on the garage, which was like a detached garage way over here. And Eric said, we're not looking for a house number there. When we're in an emergency, we're looking somewhere near the front door. So make sure it's near the front door. He said, it should be a number, not like some people have them written out, like it's this really pretty scripty, 35
No, it should be
or
blocky
whatever.
numbers.
Just blocky numbers that can be seen. This is all about, I had a senior one time that argued with me because she wanted like really pretty numbers on her house. And I said to her, Marianne, you need numbers that they're going to be able to easily see and easily find.
Right.
So
that was a big thing for me as a dispatcher. Where's the numbers on your house?
Absolutely. Where are the numbers on your house?
Especially if it's a dark street or something.
Yes. Don't stick them on a decorative rock in the middle of the yard because they're not looking, as Eric said, the firefighters and the ambulance, the EMTs are not looking on a decorative rock somewhere in the middle of the road. They're looking right at the, right around the front door. So
Yep,
that's
house
where
or
they need to
mailbox
be.
is where they go.
Yep.
And even then, if your mailboxes are clustered on a rural street, that's not going to help either.
Right. You should really have them in both places. You should have them on the mailbox and you should also have them on the house. So
absolutely. Yep.
That's the most important thing because, again, in an emergency, seconds count. Eric said we have literally driven by like a house because we couldn't find it. So think about the time that now we've driven by. Now we realize we must have passed it because we're looking at the numbers of the houses that we can see. Now we got to turn around the fire truck or turn around the ambulance. It's not sometimes.
And if you're having a stroke, those seconds mean
absolutely
something.
count. So, okay, house numbers, most important thing. Second, probably most important thing, are there smoke and carbon monoxide detectors on each level of your home? So let's spend just a couple minutes talking about detectors because people generally have a lot of questions about this. So first of all, what we say is, and I talked to when Mary Regan was chief, she and I went through this together. When you go to sell your house, there is a huge fire code for what you need to have in terms of detectors, where they need to be, how many, how far apart, and it's mind-boggling. Mm-hmm. And any realtor is going to walk you through that process.
Yeah, because you can't sell your house without it.
Correct. Now, what we're saying to our seniors to keep them safe, in some cases, we know we've got people on fixed incomes, low incomes, we understand that in that case, it's not necessarily feasible for them to have, 9 smoke detectors in their house. I have something like 11 smoke detectors. It's all up to code and everything's where it needs to be. And that's the way we bought the home. But it's like, I get it. That's a lot. What we're saying, because we have homes in this city with no smoke detectors. No detectors at all.
I believe
because if
that.
someone has lived in the home and aged in the home for a number of years, there was a time way back when we didn't have smoke detectors.
And it wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't a law.
It was like the 80s.
Right.
It wasn't even required.
Right. And so, unless they go to sell the house, that of course is when you're going to have to put them in. So what we're saying is have at least one, and what I'm really advocating for are combination smoke carbon monoxide detectors. You can get them so it's all in one unit. Those are the best kind. It's a 10-year. They don't even, in Massachusetts law now, you don't even have batteries in your detectors. It's a sealed battery. So you don't have to change them. It's a 10-year deal. You put it up there. You don't worry about it for 10 years. But in 10 years, you got to take it down and replace it with a new detector.
Mine are fully wired.
Yours are hardwired.
And they have the battery backup.
Okay. So let's talk about hardwired versus not. So what hardwired detectors mean is that they've been installed, and we generally recommend they're installed by an electrician. So all of the detectors throughout the house, mine are hardwired as well. It means they're all connected. So if there's a fire in the basement, the alarm goes off everywhere in the house because they're all interconnected. So all of these alarms are going off. So that's, and it was interesting because it's a little confusing. So Patrick Egloff, Chief Egloff, when he was the fire prevention officer, we have these at the senior center. I color coded them, but he did 3 handouts on smoke detectors for houses constructed prior to 1975. Those are just going to be battery operated. You didn't need hardwired prior to 1975. From 1975 to 1997, that was one code. So if your house was built during those years, here's the information on that. And then any new construction, new considered anything after 1997, here are the guidelines for that. We have these because it can be confusing. I absolutely understand that. So we have these at the senior center. They are, as I said, what I did was I color coded them. You can actually grab one of these. If you need detectors, you can take it down to like Rocky's Ace Hardware and say, okay, This is what I need. My house was constructed in 1962. That was before 1975. So I need the battery operated smoke detectors. So that information is there again. That what we are recommending is for your safety, not for selling your house, because that's a whole different ballgame, but for your safety, you need to have a smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector on each level of the home. So that includes a basement. If you have a basement, that's especially important with carbon monoxide detectors, because a lot of times that's where your furnace is. It's where, your washer and dryer, if you have a gas dryer. So make sure basement, first floor, and if you have a second floor, on the second floor.
Yep.
Not necessarily in the attic. And I know the last time Ben Warren was doing the Westfield Council on Aging Presents on Fire Safety, he talked about the fact that attics sometimes can set them off because of the heat up there. So, but they're more concerned about basement level, first floor, second floor, if you have a second floor. So smoke and carbon monoxide. And you know what? I'm going to say not only smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, but let's use the word working smoke and carbon monoxide detectors, because here's the problem that we have run into. In fact, the first fire fatality that I got involved with this program was the fire on Overlook Drive. It was an elderly couple. It was in February this was many years ago, like 10 years ago. And there were smoke detectors. However, they were not working smoke detectors. The batteries were dead, and they weren't working. So smoke detectors that aren't working are useless. It's as good as having no smoke detector. So that's, so again, and what we ask people is, if they say, well, I have smoke detectors, my first question is, do you know how old they are? Well, I don't know. I think, they've got to be at least 15 or 20 years old. If they're 15 or 20 years old, they're non-working smoke detectors. I don't care
because they use an isotope, and the isotope breaks down over time.
It just disintegrates. It breaks down over time, and it's useless. So make sure that they're working. Okay, so that's that one. We'll do one more, and then we'll take a short break. Are rooms in the home free of excessive clutter, which create a fire hazard and hinder clear pathways for first responders? I can't emphasize enough how many calls my office has gotten in the last probably 2 years from members of the Westfield Fire Department saying, we had to respond to an ambulance. Usually it was an ambulance call, but sometimes it was a fire where we couldn't get to the victim because there was too much stuff. Or, like, how about this one? We've had seniors who have blocked the front door because they don't use the front door. They only use the back door. So, they put a sofa in front of the door, or they put a bookcase in front of the door. So when the firefighters come and they're trying to get there as quickly as possible, they go to open up the front door. Well, you can't get to the front door, but now the victim can't get around to the back door, and the firefighters can't get there because it's locked. I mean, folks, you got to think, especially if you're older, especially if you have mobility problems, if you have health issues, think safety. You've got to have your clutter. I know that, you have a lot of your tchotchkes and the things that make you happy, but they need to not be blocking doorways and windows, and also especially on stairs. That is so dangerous. I cringe every time, I see people, well, I'll take this upstairs when I go, and they put the item on a stair. And, you got stuff going down to the basement. And I can't tell you how many times we've gotten calls from people who fell down their basement stairs because that's where the laundry was. And they were carrying their laundry basket and forgot that they had put, 10 items on the stairs that they were supposed to take down the next time they went to the basement. And they tripped. They fell over the items.
It's not hard to do that.
It's absolutely not hard to do that. And listen, folks, it's not only not hard for you to do it, but your EMTs and your firefighters, it's also easy for them to trip over your stuff. Also, especially during this time of year, if you have snow and ice, we have the Sand for Seniors program. We've given a lot of our seniors buckets of sand. So please make sure that if you can't get out there to shovel or whatever, that you at least throw your sand salt combination on your steps and your sidewalk, so that if something happens and the EMTs have to get out there, they are safe to get to the victim. So all important things. Okay. It is 7:19. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses on WCPC Cable Channel 15. We're going to take a short break and listen to Billy Joel singing "We Didn't Start the Fire."
Support for the community programming of WSKB is provided by the Barnes & Noble College Bookstore in the Ely Campus Center, offering Westfield State t-shirts, sweatshirts, and gift merchandise. all of your academic needs, and offering textbook materials in new, used, ebook, and rental formats. Available at the bookstore on campus or online at westfieldsstate.bncollege.com.
This is Ken Stomsky from Ken's Den on WCPC 15 and 89.5 FM, Tuesdays, 8 to 10.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM, WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:24. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I am in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. Good morning again, Pete.
Good morning.
And it is Retire the Fire Week at the Westfield Senior Center, so we are talking about fire prevention and safety for Westfield seniors and, of course, for all of Westfield's residents as well. So we are going through this Retire the Fire Senior Safety Checklist, which, again, is available at the Senior Center. We have a whole table full of information as soon as you walk in the front door, so please feel free to stop by and grab whatever would be helpful for you. So we've gone through a couple of safety checks here, and the next one on the list is, are the stove and oven used only for cooking and not storage of kitchen items and the display of knickknacks? You know, we have a lot of our seniors, but this is not just unique to seniors. I've seen others do it as well. You know, I never use my oven, so I'll just store a lot of people store like their cookie sheets in there, their turkey roasting pan in there, you know, and then when occasionally they do use the oven, they turn it on to preheat it without opening it up. But we've also had seniors that have stored like their dish towels in the oven, because especially if they're living in a small apartment and they don't have a lot of storage room.
Not a good idea.
Not a good idea when you forget that they're in there and you go to preheat your oven. That's a great way to. We've also had seniors that have used their stove top as like a tabletop. So we've got newspapers on there, we have magazines on there, we have medications on there. Again, the stove and oven should be clutter-free and just used for cooking. And if you don't normally cook on it, that's okay. Leave everything off of it, though. We had the fire that started in Washington House a few years ago started because first of all, there was stuff in the oven that didn't belong there, and the gentleman who was in that apartment accidentally turned the oven on or the stove on, whichever he did. He leaned against something, and it turned on. He didn't realize it. He went to bed. It happened before, because I don't remember what else he had on there. I do remember Eric Bishop telling us there were knives. There was like a knife set, you know, in a knife holder. That was either on top of that must have been on top of the stove.
Yeah, wood block.
And the wood block, and he leaned against the stove, went to bed, and the next thing you know, we're evacuating an entire apartment building.
I remember that.
So remember, these things happen, folks. So be really careful. We have a great brochure at the Senior Center. It's called Put a Lid on It, Cooking, Fire, and Burn Safety Tips. So this is all about how to put out a stovetop fire, if you have one, what to do, which you generally leave the firefighting to the firefighters. Your job is to call them and get out of the house or the apartment. In the case of a stovetop fire, what you want to do is we talk about put a lid on it. You want to smother the fire. Don't put water on it.
Correct.
Don't use a fire extinguisher. I wouldn't even recommend you have a fire extinguisher in your kitchen. Most people don't know how to use them properly.
Because it'll spray the grease around.
It'll splatter grease, and you could get really badly burned. So what you want to do is smother the fire. Shut off the stove or oven. Smother it. Same thing if something in the microwave or whatever, just shut it off and call 911. Get out of the house. All right. But plenty more in the brochures that are at the Senior Center. What about electrical outlets? Are they being used properly without overload? Overload is a huge problem with our seniors, because a lot of our seniors live in older homes, and you don't have a lot of electrical outlets in each room. Sometimes you only have, a couple. You might have two in a room. And the problem with using a lot of extension cords. Well, for one thing, that's a tripping hazard. That's a whole other thing. But, extension cords and multiple where you can, multiple units where you can plug in a bunch of stuff into one thing, that overloads it. And
that's one of the topics we discussed with Harry.
Yes. So that will be on the interview with Ben Warren. But because electrical fires are becoming more prevalent, and those are avoidable. It may be
because we have devices.
Yes, we have devices, and it also may be that if you're living in an older home, that you're going to have to get an electrician in there to to just give you a little bit more power. Because one of the issues is that when a lot of these homes were built, these older homes, we didn't have all of these electronics that we have today. We didn't have washers and dryers and dishwashers.
You also didn't have
blowers
some of those old houses. You don't have grounded plugs.
Right. Exactly. So lots of things to be concerned about. There's some really basic things though, folks. If you see sparking, if you see, when you go to plug something in, or you get a tingling, if you have
felt that.
Yeah, if frayed wires. I mean, I can remember somebody bringing a fan into the senior center a few years ago. The air conditioning went, and it was hot in there. It was in the summer, and one of the pool players brought a fan in thinking he was being helpful. I took one look at it. I was like, I don't think so. It was an older fan that he took out of the bottom of the closet. I'm looking at the cord. It's all frayed and, exposed. And I said, hello? Right now I have an air conditioning problem, but soon I'll have no building to worry about because you're going to burn the place down with this.
Right.
And I wouldn't even let him take it home. I said, it's going out into the dumpster. You can't use this. It's completely unsafe. So things like that, do not pinch your wires underneath carpeting or, behind furniture, because again, that destroys the cords. And that is a great way to start a fire. So be really careful with all things electric. Again, we've got Preventing Electrical Fires at Home. We have that brochure at the Senior Center. Feel free. We can always make more copies of these brochures if we need to. So no overloading and no, extension cord into an overloaded outlet. That's a great way to start a fire. Okay, does each older adult in the home have a completed and updated file of life packet prominently displayed on the refrigerator? What, you ask, is a file of life packet? Well, I just happen to have one here. So this is what it looks like. A file of life packet is a small magnetic plastic holder. Here's the magnetic strip on the back. This goes on your refrigerator. It says file of life on it. Inside the file of life, I'm going to take this out and show you. It's just a card. And on the card, it has things like your name, your address, your doctor, a phone number, your preferred hospital. Where would you like to go if 911 calls and you can't respond? What if you live alone and you're having a stroke and you can't speak? Or you're having a heart attack and you can't speak and they can't, or you're out cold. So that tells them that. Emergency contacts, a name, address, a phone number. There are spaces for 2. Your medical data. Now, you're not going to give them your whole medical history, but what medications are you taking? So there's a place for you to list your medication, your dosage, and how often you take it. Any special conditions that you have, there's a little space for that. Your pharmacy. Then it's got things like your date of birth, your blood type, your religion, your healthcare proxy. Do you have a healthcare proxy? Where might that be? And where might your living will be? And then on the back, this is really easy. Any recent surgeries and the date. Do you have any kind of an end-of-life directive? Yes or no? And where's it located? And then on medical conditions, it's just a checklist, folks. You don't have to write them all out. It's going to be like asthma, angina, cataracts, anything like that. You can just check it off. Any allergies, again, it's just a checklist. You can just check it off. And your medical insurance, your insurance company, the policy number. This gets filled out in pencil because obviously some of these things change. Your doctor may change. You may change your address. You may move. Your emergency contact may change their phone number, or the contact may change. So all of those things, you have to keep this updated. So it's important to fill it out. So what we're saying to our seniors is if you don't have a file of life, please come down to the senior center and get one. Okay, we have them. We have plenty. I wrote a grant last year, so we have plenty of file of life for you. If you have one, make sure that it's updated. Just take 5 minutes. It should be in pencil. Get your eraser out. If you need to change anything, just change it. Mostly, it's what we find with the seniors is it's their medications. You know, they added one, the doctor took them off one, whatever. Now, in addition to this file of life, which goes on your refrigerator, there's another smaller one that's in the packet. And this file of life, all the same thing. It's just a smaller version, same kind of card. It's a little bit tinier, so you might have to have somebody help you to fill this out, okay, if you have arthritis or it's hard to write. This one, for women, you keep this in your purse. For gentlemen, you keep this in your wallet. It's small, it's compact. So let me tell you a little story about the file of life and how this can really be a lifesaver. Last week, folks, 6 days ago at the Senior Center, we were doing, Carol Palmer was teaching her Totally Fun Fitness class, and one of the class members wasn't feeling well before class, didn't really mention that to anybody. She was feeling okay, but not well. Well, once the class started, she really started to not feel well at all, and, cold and clammy, hyperventilating. So she kind of sat herself down on the floor because, wasn't sure if she was going to pass out. And of course, that sets the emergency procedure at the Senior Center into play. So the nurse, Evelyn Bristol, the public health nurse who is housed at the Senior Center, we all ran down. Evelyn started, taking blood pressure and so forth, kind of assessed the situation. Yep. And within a minute said, let's call 911. Not sure what's going on here. So we called 911. We gave them the information, and they came. And in the meantime, I said to Mary Lou Najalski, our program director, find her, I know she's got a file of life in her purse. So get her file of life, anything that we could send with her to the hospital. So Mary Lou comes and she's got this file of life, the small one. Yep. And on top of the file of life, in the same packet was she doesn't drive, but she has an ID license and her insurance card, okay? So there were some pretty important cards in this packet. So Mary Lou said, here you go, we'll give this to the EMTs. EMTs get there, do their thing, get her on a stretcher, start to take her out, and I'm holding this, and I said to them, I have her file of life, her license, her insurance card, and Erica, the EMT that was on scene, said to me, all I need is the file of life. Have her, you can keep her the other important documents because we don't want those. She goes, just give me the file of life. Everything that we need and everything that they're going to need when we get her into the ED is on the file of life.
Okay.
There you have it, folks. And yesterday she was back in class exercising and looking great. So it can be a game changer. Please, we have these. You don't have to buy them. You don't have to, it's like, where can I get a file of life? You can get a file of life at the Senior Center. Come on down. We are open 8:30 to 4:30. All right. The other form that we have is called the Friend form. And this form was developed by Nina Bars, who is head of dispatch here in Westfield. This is unique to Westfield. This is a form that should be filled out if there's someone in the household who either has a dementia diagnosis or any kind of a sensory disability, someone who's blind, legally blind, or very limited vision, someone who is very hard of hearing or deaf, somebody who's got mobility issues, somebody maybe who uses a wheelchair or even a walker, but who finds walking or ambulating difficult and time-consuming. It could be someone who has a speech impairment. It could be someone who is aphasic. So any of those, someone who's bedridden, so you would fill out this form. And what this does is you're giving us name, date of birth, address, home phone, cell phone. You're checking any of those things that apply that I just talked about. And again, it's emergency contacts. There's not a whole lot. It's just so this form then comes to us and we give this to dispatch, and dispatch will put this in their database so that if someone in that household calls 911, dispatch can tell the EMTs, the ambulance, the fire on the way over there, this is someone who is bedridden. So, they're not going to be able to answer the door, or this is someone who has dementia, or someone in the household has dementia, or, it's helpful information for the EMTs to know on their way over to helping someone out. Okay, so those are the very basics of the senior safety checklist. We're going to talk about falls and falls prevention. When we come back, we're going to take a short break. It is 7:38. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC cable channel 15. We're going to listen to Alicia Keys bring us into that topic by singing Fallen. We'll be back.
Keep on falling. And that love with you. Sometimes I love you. Sometimes you make me blue. Sometimes I feel good. At times I feel used. Loving you, darling, makes me so confused. I keep on falling in and out of love with you. I never loved someone the way that I'm loving you. I never felt this way. How do you give me so much pleasure and cause me so much pain? Just when I think I'm taking more than would a fool, I start falling back in love with you. I keep on falling in and out of love with you. I never loved someone the way that I love you. Keep on falling in and out of love with you. I never loved someone the way that I love you. I'm falling in and out of love with you. I never loved someone the way that I love you.
Underwriting for Community Radio on WSKB is brought to you in part by Rockies. Over 30 convenient locations throughout Massachusetts, Rhode Island, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and Florida. One of the nation's largest ACE dealers. Expertise and great product selection in paint, hardware, lawn and garden. That's Rockies. Rock solid service since 1926. On the web at Rockies.com.
I'm Mark Auerbach. Join me every Friday at 8 a.m. for ArtsBeat, where you'll meet interesting actors, directors, designers, and musicians here in Western New England.
Community Radio.
89.5 WSKB. Live from Studio 120 at Westfield Technical Academy, this is WCPC Channel 15 and 89.5 FM WSKB Westfield.
Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:43. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield masses and WCPC cable channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host, and I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles, and we are discussing fire prevention and fire safety for the city's older adults. It is Retire the Fire Week at the Westfield Senior Center, so we're talking all things fire and safety. And I want to talk a little bit about falls and falls prevention. And the reason for this is because it is so prevalent in this population. More than 1 in 4 people over the age of 65 fall each year. And the risk of falling and fall-related problems increases as people age. We know this. But, you know, there are, what I want to do is kind of break this down to make it a little bit more sort of so that we can tackle it. And the causes, there are a lot of reasons why people fall, especially why older people fall. Some of them have to do with the person, and some of them have to do with the physical environment. So we're going to talk about both of those, and then we're going to talk about some strategies to minimize the risk of falling. So let's start with causes of falls in older adults, the person, so the actual person. So first of all, people's eyesight, hearing, and reflexes may not be as sharp as they were when they were younger. You know, if you can't see things and you're tripping, you know, your depth perception may be off. Those are all, you know, reasons that people can fall. Or hearing, you know, suddenly someone is behind you and you didn't realize it, and you know, turn quickly and because you didn't hear them approaching, and you go down. I mean, those are all things that can happen. So it could be sensory. There are certain conditions, things like diabetes, heart disease, or problems with your thyroid, your nerves, your feet, or your blood vessels. Those can all affect your balance. And as we know, balance problems certainly can lead to falls. Conditions that caused rush movements to the bathroom. For instance, someone who's incontinent or has issues with incontinence. That also increases your chance of falling because you're trying to, you know, suddenly as you have that urge, and, you know, that's a whole other issue. But again, incontinence can be dealt with. A lot of these things can be dealt with, and so we can minimize the risk of falling. Older adults with mild cognitive impairment or certain types of dementia are at higher risk for falling. Sometimes that has to do with just the confusion. Sometimes it also has to do with depth perception. We know that folks with Alzheimer's disease have problems with their depth perception, and that can really get you all confused and discombobulated. That also can lead to falls. Age-related loss of muscle mass, which is known as sarcopenia, problems with balance and gait, and blood pressure that drops too much when you get up from a lying down or a sitting position. That's called postural hypotension. Those are all risk factors for falling. Foot problems that cause pain and unsafe footwear, such as backless shoes or high heels, can also increase your risk of falling. Some medications, and we talked about this a little bit the last time Dr. Lovelace was on the show, some medications can increase a person's risk of falling because they cause side effects such as dizziness or confusion. The more medications that a person takes, the more likely they are to fall. So those are all things that have to do with the person. And again, we're going to go back and we're going to address each one of these. The other problem is the environment. So we've talked about, one of the things we just talked about a few minutes ago was excessive clutter. You know, the more stuff you have lying around, especially on the floor, the more chances of falling. If you are babysitting grandchildren and there are toys all over the place, and it could be, you know, just little things. It's just enough to catch your toe or your foot and twist, you know, tweak your ankle a little bit, and down you go. Scatter or throw rugs are so common in older, you know, the homes of older adults, and they can be such a risk factor for falling. I know they look pretty, but that can be really problematic. We also talked earlier about long electrical cords, you know, all those extension cords, long electrical cords that kind of drape along the floor. So easy to catch your foot on one of those and just, you know, go down. Homes that are not well lit, especially if you do have a vision problem, so dimly lit hallways, stairwells, and bathrooms, those also create a fall hazard. And then finally, slippery shower stalls or bathtubs also create a fall risk. So those are all environmental, and obviously those things that are in your environment, those are pretty easy to change. We're going to talk about how to do that, but those are pretty easy to change. The personal ones are a little bit more challenging, but not insurmountable. So let's start going through some steps to help prevent falls. First of all, one of the most important things is to stay physically active. You know, sometimes older adults are so afraid that they're going to fall that they don't do anything. It's like, well, okay, if I sit in this chair, I'll be okay. But the reality is that the more active you are, the more muscle strength you have, the more bone strength you have, and the less likelihood that you're actually going to fall. Inactivity is actually a risk factor for falling, as ironic as that sounds. So you want to get an exercise program that's right for you. It doesn't mean you're going to go out and run a marathon. Doesn't mean you're going to go, do a triathlon, but something that works for you. We have plenty of options with fitness programs at the senior center. We try to make them affordable. I mean, we have chair yoga, and there are all different gradations of that. We have, strictly in the chair. We have in and out of the chair. We have some on the chair, some on the floor. We have Zumba classes. We have a men's class called Male Call. We have Carol Palmer's Totally Fun Fitness, which is a little bit of strength training, a little bit of balance, a little bit of cardio, kind of a little bit of everything. We have line dancing. So there are programs. You can do your own walking program. You can just get maybe some small weights and do a weight program. Lots of things that you can do in your home. You don't have to join a gym. You can absolutely, do some exercises at home. It keeps your joints, your tendons, and your ligaments flexible. Mild weight-bearing activities such as walking or climbing the stairs may slow bone loss from osteoporosis, and that's a disease that makes your bones weak and brittle and, again, sometimes causes falls. So stay physically active. That's the first thing. Definitely try to add some balance and strength training exercises. So things like yoga, Pilates, Tai Chi, they can all improve your balance and your muscle strength. You can also try lifting weights or using resistance bands, which are like big elastic bands. We have those at the senior center, but those are, they're not expensive. You can buy those pretty much in any sporting goods store and probably even like a store like Walmart. So again, we have classes at the senior center, and remember, we have all of our fitness classes on Channel 15. So you can turn on Channel 15. The schedule for when the different classes are is in the Voice of Experience newsletter. Every month, we have the schedule. It's on, I want to say it's on page 6, I believe, is the Channel 15 schedule. And as Pete said, too, also, he's put a lot of these programs up on YouTube. So you can do any of the fitness programs right in the comfort of your own home. Having healthy bones won't necessarily prevent a fall, but if you do fall, healthy bones may prevent serious injuries such as breaking a hip or some other bone. We know that bone breaks and fractures can lead to a hospital or nursing home stay, long-term disability, or even death. So getting enough calcium and vitamin D can help keep your bones strong. So stay active. Try to get at least 150 minutes. So that's a little over 2 hours per week, folks. Not every day, every week. So so once a week, 150 hours. It's about a half an hour of exercise a day. And it can be a variety of exercises. All right, so that's staying physically active. Let's talk about your eyes and your ears. Make sure that you have your eyes tested and your hearing tested at least annually, because even small changes, adjusting your glasses or getting a hearing aid, can really improve your likelihood of not falling. So you want to make sure you do that. Find out about the side effects of any of the medications that you're taking. And if the drug makes you sleepy or dizzy, tell your doctor or pharmacist. When Dr. Lovelace was on the show last month, he talked about the fact that sometimes what the physician will do, if they really feel that you need that medication, they might adjust the time and say, okay, if this makes you sleepy or this makes you a little dizzy, let's take this one before you go to bed, because by the time you wake up in the morning, that will have kind of, those side effects will have faded. And remember that the more medications you're on, the more likelihood of interactions. So again, review that with your physician when you go see your doctor. Make sure that you're getting enough sleep, because if you're tired, you're more likely to fall. So get a good night's sleep. You want to avoid or limit your alcohol consumption, because, again, that can make you a little woozy, a little unbalanced. This one's really important. Stand up slowly. When you get up too quickly, you can develop what's called postural hypotension. And we've all had it. It's when you jump up too soon and you get a little dizzy and you go, ooh, whoa, I'm a little woozy. And you have to kind of get your bearings straight. That's much more common in people who are older. So what you want to do is stand up, and before you start taking any steps, make sure that you have your balance. It just takes 10 or 15 seconds to stand from either a sit to stand, or if you're lying in bed and and you're getting up first thing in the morning, go to a sit position, wait for a minute, and then go to a stand position, wait for a minute, and then start your walking. And because there's a lot of times when people will jump up, or they'll get up too quickly, or even slowly, but they'll have postural hypotension, they'll get that woozy feeling, and instead of waiting a minute, because it will pass, but instead of waiting, they start walking. And, that's a great way to fall. So we don't want that to happen. If you need an assistive device, would you please use it? There's nothing, using a cane or a walker when you walk, and you have to use them correctly. So make sure that, someone is helping you to know the correct height of, especially if it's a walker or a cane. But, if you borrow those kinds of items, again, make sure that someone who knows what they're doing, you can feel free, you can bring it to the senior center. There are several of us that can help you out with that, and we can adjust things to make sure that it's the right height for you. Because using an assistive device only helps if you're using it correctly. So make sure you're doing that. Obviously, you're going to use extra caution when you're walking on wet or icy surfaces. They can be very slippery. Make sure that you're using either an ice melt or sand on your sidewalks or your steps, your stoops, if we have any kind of inclement weather. You want to, as much as you can, keep your hands free. So you want to use a shoulder bag or a fanny pack or a backpack to leave your hands free so that you can hang on to railings, and so that if, God forbid, if you did go down, you can, break your fall. So you don't want to be, that's why we say if your laundry's in the basement, you do not want to be carrying a laundry basket down the stairs, because that's just a great way. You have nothing to grab onto. You want to be hanging onto a railing. Please choose the right footwear. We know that fashion is important to all of us, but nowadays you can, especially you women, you can make a fashion statement wearing flat or low-heeled shoe. There's some really stylish ones out there. I've given up on high heels. I can't do those anymore. I'm in my mid-60s. I don't have to worry about that. But that's really important. Backless shoes are, again, they create more of a fall risk, especially if you're going up and down the stairs. So be sensible. You can get dressed up and you can look nice, but you don't have to wear spiked high heels, okay? And also make sure the bottoms of the soles are not slippery. So even if you get a new pair of dress shoes, sometimes they can be so slippery. Somebody told me years ago, just take a little sandpaper and just sand the bottom of them, just to roughen them up a little bit so that you have a little bit of a grip. Rubber-soled shoes or walking shoes or running shoes are perfect. Those are really great. Also, be really careful, especially if you get up in the middle of the night to use the bathroom, with either slipper socks or slippers with smooth soles. Socks can be, so if you want to sleep in socks because your feet get cold, which mine do, get the kind they have the little rubberized grippies on the bottom. The kind that you get in the hospital, those are great. They send them home with you. Use those. So you want to have something gripping on the bottom. Just be really careful about walking around in socks, because socks are super slippery. If you have an appointment with your doctor, make sure if you've had a fall, even if you didn't get hurt, you're still moving around, but let your doctor know if you have been falling, because it's, the doctor may want to check on your medications and things like that, just to see if there's anything that they can change to prevent fall. So you always want to let your doc know if you've had some kind of a fall.
I said that advice to a high schooler this morning that fell down her stairs.
Yeah, Well, you know,
it can happen to anybody, more so to seniors, but it can really happen to anybody.
it absolutely can happen to anybody. And again, those are all things, you know, of the person. So those are things that you can, you know, that you want to check on. Obviously, things in your environment, you know, scatter rugs. Scatter rugs are most occupational therapists and physical therapists will go into a home and take them all, roll them up and say, here, you know, throw them out or give them away. We know they look nice. If you insist on having them, make sure that they're, you know, you can even Velcro them down. So make sure that you're not getting caught in any of your scatter rugs. Please make sure that in your bathtub and your shower that you've either got, you know, grippies in there. Handrails are super important. Again, we've talked a lot about electrical cords. They do not belong, you know, extension cords wired all over. And excessive clutter. And also, we have, you know, it's really easy to get, and they're inexpensive, to get the night lights that are solar operated. So they're automatic. You just plug them in. There's not even a light bulb in it. You just stick them in an outlet and they will, you know, during the daytime they'll go off, but at nighttime, as the room gets dark, they'll automatically go on. Those are great for hallways because, you know, most hallways don't always have like an overhead light or any kind of light in them. And they're fine during the day, but at nighttime, you get up to go to the bathroom, you walk down the hall, you can't see anything. There's no light to turn on. So make sure you've got some night lights scattered around, night lights in the bathroom. Those are all things that you can do. And finally, I just want to say too, you've seen, I have my home oxygen safety sign here. Oxygen use, we do have a great brochure on that at the Senior Center. If you're on oxygen, you know, you have to take a lot of special precautions. If you would like one of these signs to hang on your door so that people know that, you know, this oxygen is in use, even if it's not all the time, even if you're just on some of the time, we have some of these at the Senior Center. So feel free to come down and, you know, we have made all of these informational flyers and brochures and posters available. So please take advantage. It is Retire the Fire Week. Please stay safe. We're going to go out with the Platters singing Smoke Gets in Your Eyes. We'll be back next week.
They asked me how I knew my true love was true. Oh, something here inside cannot be denied. They said someday you'll find all who love are blind. Smoke gets in your eyes. So I chaff them as I gaily laugh to think they would doubt our love. Yet today my love has gone away. I am without my love. Now laughing can be right, tears I cannot hide. So I smile and say, when a lovely flame dies, smoke gets in your eyes. Smoke gets in your eyes. Smoke